A very good morning to you as you join us on Aso Morning this beautiful day. It's the midweek edition of the program, and as usual, so much is going on. As a matter of fact, for some of you who have been following stories, you are asking yourself, so some stories are outright ridiculous, and we'll be getting into some of those stories here as we would end. We'll start with the new super review segment. Today is Wednesday, and so you know that by day, that's Sustainability Pulse will be standing by to give us yet another very interesting update, giving you awareness on what you need to do to help climate and our earth. And after that will be agriculture for today and tomorrow, and that'll be it for today's edition of the Aso Morning show. Stay with us, we'll go for a very short break. When we come back, it'll be time to go straight to the papers. Stay with us, we'll be back.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Welcome back from that. Like I told you, it's time to go straight to the papers this morning, and we would start this morning with the Leadership newspaper. This morning, the Leadership has here as its lead story, it says, state slashing power tariff must. State slashing power tariffs must be ready rather to pay subsidies. States slashing power tariffs must be ready to pay subsidies. That's coming from the minister right there. And the rider there says cost reflective tariffs for band A customers faulty, says State Energy Commissioner's chairman. Cost reflective tariff for band A customers faulty, says State Energy Commissioners. Moving away from that, a story that a lot of people we're talking about yesterday was Natasha blocked from NAS, attacked Senate President Akpabio. Natasha blocked from NAS, attacked Senate President Akpabio. Yesterday it got rowdy there. For some people who wanted to go to the National Assembly, it was really rowdy as the suspended senator from Kogi West constituency wanted to resume, and report has it she wasn't allowed. especially because she came in a crowd of people and it just got rowdy. And I tell you, it was rowdy for no reason. That the Senate, the National Assembly is hallowed to some of us, is a place that represents so much to us Nigerians. There's no reason why we should be recording such agboroish situation in that place. It was rowdy for no reason. It was like a marketplace, not a place that is respected, a symbol of the people's opinions and perspectives on how they want to be ruled. That is where laws are made that shape everything. The quality of air that you breathe is determined by the kind of policies that are made there. So it's a respected place. Unfortunately, it got rowdy. There was police, and then of course the media. Well, moving away from that story, it says Dangote to federal government, enforce refinery development or revoke idle license. That goes without saying. There's no reason why you hustle to get these licenses, and after, when you do get it, you just let it be. Is it for bragging rights? Get working. That's what Dangote is suggesting to Nigerians, or the federal government rather. It says revoke idle licenses or enforce refinery development. You must do something with those licenses. Attorney General Fagbemi's office denies government stake in First Hold Co. PLC, calls This Day Arise reporters report malicious. You will get details of that story on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper right there. Local government autonomy. Delay undermines democracy, Algon is saying. Local government autonomy delay is undermining democracy. You know, we had talked about it, why are we not having the implementation of that Supreme Court judgment that gives financial autonomy to local government areas? Well, that is right there. We need to do more, because you know what they say, when two elephants fight, is the grass that suffers. Yes, Nigerians are waiting. The grassroots are waiting for the development that will come as a result of this financial autonomy that we should enjoy naturally. We didn't even need the Supreme Court to pronounce it. It is the right thing to do, but I guess implementation is far-fetched, and again, it's a setback to what we had been talking about over and over, advocating for over and over. Wike backs Okpohogolo as governor, insists Obi must get clearance. Okay. Akume Jega Mahe wants private sector involvement in livestock development. Absolutely, private sector involvement. As a matter of fact, private sector should champion it. It should have, you know, we pick and choose when government went to act. We keep saying government has no business in business, and yet we see the influence government has. Give us the enabling environment, and you see the private sector will charge in. As we speak, I do not know a sector in Nigeria's economy, even the agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, I do not know that they have livestock. All we need is regulations and an enabling environment that will allow livestock development in the country. But we have the most superficial reasons, and I have no idea why we cannot have ranches. Like if we are developed as we claim that we are, or aiming to be developed, why would you have our cattle roam the streets of the Federal Capital Territory? The other day, I was having a conversation with my friend. I was telling her how I was driving, and I had to stop for cattle, a herd of cattle to pass. They littered the streets with dung, and that's it. The minister of the FCT had once said he was going to do something about it, but it goes without saying he's probably overwhelmed. Maybe he's unable to do it. There are powers that be that maybe even Wike cannot clip. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. When we talk of livestock, we talk from both sides of the mouth. Why are we not having regulations and an enabling environment for private sector to get into livestock? It's a huge market. It's a huge market. So why are we not taking advantage of this? And instead, we're expecting government to do it. Government is okay. Well, Akume, Jega, and others are asking private sector to get involved in livestock. Before, who has been getting involved in livestock? Is it not the private sector? Just give us an enabling environment. Chibok parents mourn Buhari, seek release of 87 girls. It's unfortunate that, according to this report, 87 girls are still in captivity. It's unfortunate, and I hope the government has not forgotten those young children and would reinforce actions to get them back home. I can only imagine what they would have gone through. Young secondary school children in 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds were kidnapped several years back. Osun PDP, Governor Adeleke backs Tinubu second term. Yes, for those who may not have seen that story, he is unapologetic about his support for President Tinubu, but has declared he is remaining with the PDP. News was rife last week about his possible defection to either the ADC, which was for some reason unlikely. I was surprised that was unlikely because his people, a lot of his people had moved to the ADC. But yes, he has declared he would remain with the PDP, but is unapologetic about his support for the APC President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Okay, there's a story at the footer before we leave the leadership newspaper this morning. It says LCCI bemoans CBN's rate retention. 9,000 children infected with HIV annually. Salako is saying that a very unfortunate turnout of events right there, where 9,000 children are infected, in spite of the awareness around HIV. We are still recording so much. Very unfortunate. But with that story, we move on now to the Daily Independent newspaper. The Daily Independent newspaper, taking us straight to 2027 elections. It says, PDP finally zones presidency to the south. Aha, really? Why don't you leave it open, sir? Why don't you leave it open? Maybe this is in a bid to, remember the G5? This is a bid to pacify the likes of Wike and the G5. Maybe, and there are a lot of Nigerians that had seen how, or rather perceived the PDP's open zoning as unfair to democracy. But PDP has finally zoned the presidency to the south. A lot wonder, could that be the reason why? Is this something Atiku had perceived earlier, which is why he quickly has resigned from the party, because there's no political future, at least not in 2027. Nigerians are wondering. Well, we have riders here, says holds neck to address issues bedeviling the party. The PDP indeed really has to get its act together. Founding fathers move to reclaim party's legacy. Southeast PDP disowned or defer as national vice chair ahead of NEC. Governor Adeleke, Osun PDP endorsed Tinubu for second term. That's huge right there, coming from an opposition governor. New tax policy. Federal government rolls up sleeves to actualize $1 trillion economy target. Federal government rolls up sleeves to actualize $1 trillion economy target, $1 trillion economy target. While this is noble, this is something we all should celebrate. We are going to see that productivity and vibrancy in our economy. My question would be, what are we doing to, what does roll up sleeve mean? What should the MSMEs do? The MSMEs are a huge component of our economy and contribute so much. The MSMEs alone covers about 80% of the workforce. So if you really want to energize, what are you doing? We still have duplicity of taxes in the country. So there are so many things that need to be addressed Have you spoken to someone, small businesses? Have you spoken to drivers? We read on yesterday's papers, I read about a report that somebody did in major cities across the country of traders who have to pay as much as 6,000-7,000 naira, and how much are they making daily? That's what they pay in taxes. This development tax comes, another one comes, another one comes. Transporters have been crying out, and nobody is paying attention. Transporters have been telling you the many taxes and fines and everything they have to pay to move products, goods from one place to the other. We call them ungoverned. Some of us, we call them ungoverned or unregulated individuals, or whatever you may call them, or on states, you know, people who keep collecting these taxes. But government has to do something. They are extorted highly, and guess who suffers for it? You want food prices to come down? I don't think it's rocket science. I really do not think it's rocket science that our food prices are soaring. I think there are very fundamental issues that has to be addressed first. So yes, $1 trillion economy in Nigeria, it's a no-brainer. We can achieve it, but let's roll up our sleeves and face fundamental issues that Nigerians are facing in manufacturing, in being productive, in enabling environment for businesses. So much that has to be done. Moving away from that story, Securities and Exchange Commission eyes $500 billion rather. These digits get to me at some point. $500 billion windfall from commodity exchange warehousing reforms. That story is on page 6 of the Independent newspaper. 8 banks meet recapitalization requirements, says CBN. NPC holds policy rate steady at 27.50%. And above the masthead of the Daily Independent newspaper, we are working on full implementation of Supreme Court ruling on local governments. The federal government is assuring. Algon, that's the body of local government, is saying that this is undemocratic, but it's another unfortunate thing right there. We import 10 million barrels of crude monthly from the U.S. Others, we import 10 million barrels of crude monthly from the U.S. Others. That's coming from Dangote, says Africa is losing $90 billion annually importing substandard fuel. Well, Dangote, you have seen a need. Please solve the problem. You have dabbled into the oil and gas industry, and I'm sure it's a beautiful thing that we are recording this. You are seeing the need. 90 billion, that's what Africa is losing in even importing substandard fuel from other parts of the world. We should do better. There's no reason why Nigeria is not contributing. The other day we were celebrating Nigeria even surpassing the OPEC quota. I guess we must be doing something right. But we move on quickly to the Guardian newspaper this morning. It's leading with the story, suspense as Tinubu APC NEC meet over zoning new chairman. Suspense as APC NEC meet over zoning new chairman. That's from the Guardian newspaper this morning. It says Nigeria loses $18 billion to multinationals tax evasion yearly. Yes, Nigerians will lose it. These multinationals would never be able to evade tax or want to evade tax because they know the consequences in any other part of the world. But we can do that because even the tax regulators give them a break. So yeah, again, we have to roll up our sleeves if we are serious. Loses $18 billion to multinationals tax evasion. Yes. Meanwhile, while multinationals are able to evade taxes, there's medium and small businesses. In fact, nano businesses are unable to evade taxes. These are individuals who make what? Maybe $2 as turnover. $2 as turnover daily. And there's their taxes for them. Before you get into the market, hawking, you have to pay tax, and so that you are allowed to do that. And if you're able to even own a shop, a shop in the market, there are several taxes that come, and these are not corresponding with services in the market. I don't want to overflog this issue today. I'm a bit passionate about it because I know what will happen if you only energize and see, or rather improve and enhance productivity in the MSME sector. So 20 trillion, okay, 210 trillion naira scandal. Senate accuses NNPCL GCO, that's the group CEO of defiance, gives 24-hour ultimatum. Benue killings, 3,160 displaced, 48 homes destroyed. That's coming from the federal government. We have other stories here. Senate approved Tinubu's $21.8 billion loan plan. 758 billion naira pension bond amid soaring debt concerns. For a very long time now, this kind of story is something to expect in the papers. It's almost as if you wake up and say, I'm going to see federal government, Senate approves the federal government loan plan amid concerns on soaring debt profile. No brainer, you would always see that. But here we go again. Forgive me if you catch me there rolling my eyes, but that's what we almost expect daily. Okay, suspense as Tinubu APC NEC meet over zoning new chairman. That ICC renovation and renaming of public assets. Okay, that's an editorial right there. Reps consider restricting politician families to public hospitals and schools. That has been getting a lot of attention. Nigerians are happy about this bill. However, somebody raised something because I like to feel the pulse of Nigerians, especially when these policies are out there. Now, somebody said, as it is now, if you go to a public hospital, there's something they call the VIP station, the VIP part of the hospital. And I don't think it's novel. I don't think it's something that you don't find in other parts of the world. However, Nigerians are afraid that should this bill even pass, we would have the VIP section for within the public schools. We will still have the VIP section for the students. But I would always say, overall, holistically speaking, there would be an improvement. Imagine for a moment that your House of Rep member, your senator, your minister's child has to go to a certain primary school just as your child has to go there. There is absolutely no reason why that minister would not reach out to the chairman of education in his committee and ensure that the oversight functions are to par, like best. Improve seating arrangements. Imagine a child comes and says, Daddy, the tables that we are sitting on in our school do not have cushions. They are just desks with no cushions. I mean, that's how we grew up, right? But imagine a child who grows up in opulence and comes back to say, I don't like that school. The chairs are hard. It's just wood. When we sit on wood. And he comes to say, there's no roof in my school. Something indeed is going to happen. Imagine the Minister of Education's children have to actually go to public institutions. And for 6 months, they sit back home because schools are on strike. And he has to wake up and watch his children not know what the future holds for them, like all Nigerians. I agree with Nigerians that are excited about this, the possibility of this bill. They have a lot of pessimists are saying it would be a shocker if this bill turns to an act where politicians and families and public office holders would be subjected to using public schools, public hospitals, and public facilities. That's a conversation we'll have on the show one of these days. Now, moving away from that story, stakeholders warn of setback for Nigeria, Africa as US exits UNESCO. Yes, the US has exited almost everything when it comes to the United Nations. The US president, I was in New York a couple of months back, that was in March, when during during a stakeholders meeting where we had representatives from all UN member states contributing to the SDG. It was a women event, and they said henceforth they do not believe in the SDGs, and the US is alienating itself with the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's a no-brainer. The US, who has been one of the biggest funders to the UN, has also moved away. So it's even I guess a good thing that they stayed this long. We should expect more exits. The US president doesn't seem to see work that the UN has been doing. Tension as security operatives deny Natasha access to the National Assembly. And above the masthead, AGF's office denies government stakeholders interest. Okay, we have taken that story and we move away from the Guardian newspaper this morning and go straight to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Confusion persists over APC NEC meeting. Governors NWC in dark over caucus. Above the masthead, okay, we had taken that story. Government denying stakes in a first hold co. Osun PDP leaders endorsed Tinubu Adeleke for second term. In health, we have here owning a smartphone before age 13 linked to poor mental health. Africa losing 90 billion annually to imported substandard fuel. That's coming from Dangote. External reserves hit $40.1 billion in July. CBN governor is saying Apex Bank maintained lending rate at 27.5%. Says 8 banks have met recapitalization requirement. Federal government issues fresh flood alert to 28 states. Nigeria has 36, including the Federal Capital Territory, 36 states, and 28 of that has fresh flood alerts. That's how bad it is. Something indeed really has to be done, and I fear that until this flood happens, we don't see the proactive work that should be going on in mitigating the flood, if possible, in evacuating in the most prone areas. We don't see that. I think we are so used to intervention when these things have happened. We go try to give aid. We try to throw bread like we saw in Benue. That haunts me, where people had been trapped because of the flood, and in response, Nigerian response team was throwing bread to people in the water. That haunts me. Now is an alert that Nigerians should take seriously. Right now we have an alert that Nigerians should take seriously, and that's why Biden keeps talking about what we can do to protect the environment against all these environmental changes that we see. Okay, so yes, we move away from the Nigerian Tribune and quickly go to the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. How Ajibade Alozie fired Nigeria into WAFCON finals. That's what the Daily Trust is leading with. We are excited about the recent South Africa in the 2-1 semi-final win, the Nigerian Women African Cup of Nations that happened. I am so bad with sports stories that I didn't want to get it wrong there, but I guess we are excited about Nigeria's win there. National Assembly bars Natasha from resuming plenary. Flood Act now, Northern elders tell federal government. Reps ask US to restore 5-year visa policy for Nigerians. The reps are saying that, and Nigeria. The question on my mind is, what gives you the moral justification to ask for that? What are you doing to ensure that young people do not overstay abroad? Young people are leaving your country. Opportunities are not are in these countries where they are running to. What are you doing? Let's fix the country first, so that in fact we won't know whether or not there is a restriction on Nigerians. The visa restrictions would not be a thing, because I mean Nigerians won't care. They will be so busy with making ends meet here in the country that they won't think so much about that, while businesses would go on. And if we had proven ourselves to be responsible, we would not be subjected to these stiff restrictions, border restrictions from certain countries. Look at the UAE restriction. Look at the UK restrictions. Canada is also restricting Nigerians. Everything just seems to be stifling. Young people who actually want to learn or study, young people who have to go there for businesses are all affected by all of this. And when you read about the story, the headline, reps ask US to restore, what your moral justifications are, or SARS? We move on from there to the Vanguard newspaper quickly. The Vanguard is saying resumption bid, drama Senate as Natasha security agents clash. The rider here says Senator walks to NAS premises on foot after stoppage of her convoy, blocked from accessing main building. I'll approach appeal courts to seek interpretation of legal impasse. Akpoti Udogan is saying activists battles police over a role in stopping senator. We acted on others from above, security agents are saying. And now above the masthead of the Vanguard newspaper, still talking about the federal government's denial. We've taken that story. Reconsider planned trip to Nigeria, US tells citizens. Reconsider planned trip to Nigeria, US tells citizens. Warns of kidnapping, terrorism, poor health care and others. That's the image we are sending. Simultaneously, the reps are telling you, oh, you too get us access to your country. Meanwhile, I think what should be addressed here is the warning that the US, the travel guide that the US is sending to its citizens, says reconsider your trips to Nigeria. Warns of kidnappings, terrorism, poor health infrastructure, and among others. That is what I expect our legislators to, at this moment, be considering. Senate approves 2025-2026 external borrowing plan of $21.5 billion. That's it. It says Nigeria dethroned South Africa. So we'll just quickly take the Punch newspaper this morning as our last paper, as we are really running out of time. APC may pick Ganduje's successor to make or break NEC meeting. APC may pick Ganduje's successor to make or break a NEC meeting. Al Makura, okay, we have here Riwatda, Dalori top race, lobbying thickens. North Central demands slot constitution review on NEC agenda. Israeli protest in Tel Aviv over Gaza food shortage. Article warns as Okpebolo Wike insists on Obi's visit clearance. ADC boils over Tinubu's endorsement by Adeleke Onyilola. Okay, ADC boils. Now it's making sense. When I hear ADC, I know where that's going. Senate okays Tinubu's 21 billion foreign loans. And that's it for the newspaper review segment this morning. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope I was able to give you those stories that are important to you, that would shape your perspective about what's going on in the world and Nigeria. This is where we draw the curtains on the Newsbar Review segment. Remember, Ebide is standing by with sustainability pulse, and that's where we're going to shortly. So stay with us. We'll be back after that.
Hello and welcome to Sustainability Pulse with Ebide, your go-to platform for facts, content and conversations on climate action, policy and the path to a sustainable future. Ladies and gentlemen, we're watching today. I'm kicking off with a powerful new series. I'm sure we all enjoyed the series on beat plastic pollution. For this series, we'll be talking about climate equity and accountability. And we're starting with the question at the center of it all. Who is paying for Africa's green transition? Is it the world's richest countries who have caused this crisis? Is it African governments trying to keep up? Or is it the African people, again, carrying the burden? Let's unpack it all and understand where we are. Now, at the recent World Bank IMF spring meetings, African leaders renewed their call for climate finance that is predictable, accessible, and fair. With COP30 happening in November this year, which is just around the corner in Brazil, Africa's negotiators are uniting around this demand. Ali Mohammed, Kenya's advisor and Africa's lead climate negotiator, made it clear that there is no reverse gear on climate ambition. Africa is not backing down. Meanwhile, the World Bank president, Ajay Banga, said the institution mobilized for the $3 billion in climate financing this past fiscal year. But here's the challenge. Most of that is flowing to middle-income countries, not Africa's most vulnerable regions. And this is the fact on ground. Globally, a wave of interest is rising around debt for climate swaps. Yes. Where countries receive debt relief in exchange for investing in nature-based solution or clean energy. It's a bold idea, but is it working for Africa? Would it work for Africa? Let's see how that is. But seriously, the truth is, if we can swap our debts, for, climate action, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's something we can look into as a continent, as a country. We can look into that. Different countries within Africa can look into that and see the possibility of having some debt relief as a result of taking action to curb climate crisis. We're going to short break, and once we are back, we'll look at the reality we find ourselves and how Africa needs to meet up with the climate targets. Just stay with us. We're going to short break, and once we are back, we would continue.
Africa stands at the front lines of the climate crisis. Over 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity. 1 in 3 face food insecurity due to climate-induced droughts and floods. By 2050, over 100 million people on the continent could be pushed into extreme poverty because of climate change. Plastic waste is piling, forests are vanishing, coastal cities are sinking. Yet, we are not powerless. Africa is also the youngest continent with 60% of its population under 25. We hold the energy, innovation, and drive to reshape the future. From solar-powered villages to bold climate tech, from green entrepreneurs to eco-warriors in slums and cities, the pulse of sustainability is rising. This is Sustainability Pulse with Ebaide, the show where truth meets urgency and action meets hope. Together, we decode the data, amplify the change makers, and reclaim Africa's future, one story at a time. This is not just a show, it is a movement. Welcome to The Pulse.
Yes, welcome back from that short break. And just before we went on the break, we're talking about, Africa's need to step up in terms of climate finance. We looked at how the World Bank IMF spring meetings and Africa leaders renewing their call for climate finance, that is actually predictable, accessible, and fair. We also looked at how the World Bank, is trying to actually improve the climate financing we find ourselves. Now, the reality check, Africa needs 277 billion US dollars annually to meet its climate targets. But in 2021 to 2022, all climate finance flowing into Africa totaled just 43.6 billion US dollars, less than 16% of what is actually required. Even more concerning, 70% of this financing is debt, not grants. Not grants, debts. So it means that we'll still have to pay back. This means that African nations are being asked to borrow their way out of a crisis they did not cause. They didn't cause it. And the cost of borrowing is much higher than in developed countries. Africa's spotlight, Nigeria's latest sovereign green bond, came with an interest rate of 19%. For context, countries with France or Germany borrow at 2 to 3%. This bond will support projects like solar energy, green buildings, and forest protection, but at a high cost to the treasury. Kenya is preparing its first sovereign green bond under ICMA. And the whole idea is for it to be compliant, with ICMA's, framework. It needs 62 billion US dollars to meet its climate goals by 2030. Over 87% of that is expected from external partners. Now, let's look at Senegal. Senegal signed a 2.8 billion US dollars just energy transition partnership with European and Canadian government to boost renewables to 40% of electricity by 2030. But critics worry. Who monitors implementation? How transparent is the process? Let's take a break now. But no, not a break now. Let's look at a breakdown, the breakdown of how things are working. Whilst the African governments are trying, to get their hands on, monies to actually help sustain the climate financing project, they're also drowning in debts. Just look at that breakdown and imagine, while trying to solve a problem, we're incurring more debt as a continent. That in itself is not fair. Now let's look at what is working. Green bonds are increasing visibility into how money is spent. Yes. Now, new climate resilient clauses in debt contracts allow repayment suspension during disasters. The African Development Bank now has a strong sustainable bond framework to support African states. But that can work. Let's look at what's not working. Debt for climate swaps are too small. Barbados, for example, saved 50 million US dollars, which is just a drop in the ocean. A drop in the ocean, $50 million as to almost 300 billion US dollars that we need. That's just a drop in the ocean. And private sector funding still avoids Africa due to perceived risk. Yes, you will not blame them. Conditionality traps force, African governments to cut social spending while taking on climate loans. Yes, how do we do that? Cut down social spending. Let's face the real issue with at hand. Your voice matters. Now, as citizens, as advocates, as young people, how can you engage? How do we track these people? How do we track this spending? How do we track this finance? How do you join the conversation? Track your country's climate bond and budget and bond. Ask your local government, for example. Your local government, of course, in the chain of command from your state government, your local government. Ask them, what's going on within that state? The green bond budget. Do they even have a green budget fund going on in that state? And if they do, where does it go to? Join civic tech groups. There's budgets, for example. And these are ways to actually hold the leaders accountable. So even at the local government level, you can actually hold them accountable. At the state government level, you can hold them accountable. If the federal government is going to release a bond, a budget, a green budget, for example, we need to see how we can hold these leaders accountable. Now, we can also use the tools like Open Climate. There's actually a tool called Open Climate or CPI Tracker to follow international finance flows. Yes. And when we follow this money, we can change the narrative. And the truth is, Africa has a lot to do when it comes to climate financing. Beyond even seeking for these debts or for these monies, there's actually a lot we can do within our continent, within our countries, to ensure that the climate finance gaps are closed. There's a lot we can do as a country, as a continent. Now, we'll go on a short break, and when we are back, we'll look at, how Africa prepares for COP30 in Brazil. It's coming. 30 years, the Conference of Parties, year in, year out, we gather in some country and discuss a lot of things. But where do we go from there? And how is Africa preparing for COP30 in Brazil? And we need to be clear on this thing, for example. We're going to COP30 as a continent or as a country in the continent. What are the conversations? What do you bring to the table? What do you drive during the whole conversations? How do you negotiate? Yeah, we actually have a chief negotiator from Kenya. But those negotiations, to what end? And more than ever, we need implementation, driving action towards implementation. That is not far-fetched. But as a continent, we need to be prepared for COP30. So we're going on a quick break, and when we are back, we'll look at how we're preparing for COP30 as a continent, and of course what the numbers are and what we should be demanding as a continent. See you shortly, and when we are back, we'll look at this and what we should do as a continent going forward.
Africa stands at the front lines of the climate crisis. Over 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity. 1 in 3 face food insecurity due to climate-induced droughts and floods. By 2050, over 100 million people on the continent could be pushed into extreme poverty because of climate change. Plastic waste is piling, forests are vanishing, coastal cities are sinking. Yet, we are not powerless. Africa is also the youngest continent with 60% of its population under 25. We hold the energy, innovation, and drive to reshape the future. From solar-powered villages to bold climate tech, from green entrepreneurs to eco-warriors in slums and cities, the pulse of sustainability is rising. This is Sustainability Pulse with Ebaide, the show where truth meets urgency and action meets hope. Together, we decode the data, amplify the change makers, and reclaim Africa's future, one story at a time. This is not just a show, it is a movement. Welcome to the Pulse.
Yes. Now, here is a call to action. As Africa prepares for COP30, let's be clear. Africa should approach negotiations as a united, assertive bloc, demanding justice, equity, and accountability across all pillars of the Paris Agreement. The continent contributes least to the global emissions, yet bears the brunt of climate impact. This must be front and center. We keep saying it. Africa Africa actually is the greatest sufferers, but we're the least emitters of this hazard. So what do we demand as we approach COP30 in Brazil? What do we demand? What do we ask for? How do we put our boots to the ground? Now, climate finance justice demand full delivery of the $100 billion per year promised by developed countries, not loans, but grants and concessional finance. We must drive that these monies must be grants and not loans. We can't try to solve a problem and at the same time incurring debts. Now, we have to push for a new finance goal post 2025 that reflects real needs, actual needs. Africa alone may need 2.8 trillion by 2030 for its NDCs. Yes. Our nationally determined contributions. We need finance. We need new goals on how to achieve our NDCs by 2030. And those demands have to be met. They have to be met. Climate finance access reform. We have to simplify and fast-track access to GCF and other funds, especially for frontline states. Now, for loss and damage, we have to see how we can actually operationalize the loss and damage fund with clear, non-bureaucratic pathways for African countries to access funding. The truth is, let's demand more grants, not loans. We need, and we can't keep, keeping silent or keeping our voices low as a result of trying to play small. As a continent, we demand. We shouldn't just ask for. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones suffering the most. So let's demand for more grants, not loans, more transparency, not bureaucracy. And most importantly, more inclusion of young people, women, and grassroots groups in climate finance decisions. We shouldn't just listen to them. We should amplify. And for this episode, we shouldn't just listen to this episode. We need to amplify this episode, share this episode, tag your leaders, speak up. We deserve better financing as a country, as a continent, and a livable future for all. And as usual, we won't have these conversations here today, without driving our sustainability tips for the week as usual. We will not wrap up without engaging you all and charging you all to be sustainable leaders, even in your homes. In your homes, your churches, you have to see we have to learn how to step up and see, best ways, to actually join the fight. You don't have to have so much money, no. And these are the myths we have to change. You have to rethink your spending. Finance your own climate action. This might sound big, but you can start small. Choose eco-conscious banks or fintechs that don't invest in fossil fuels. Yes. Look out for them. Imagine all of us watching this today and we tell ourselves, you know what? For every bank, if any bank actually finances or invests in fossil fuels, we will boycott that bank. Imagine all of us taking a stand. We have to learn how to also support local green businesses, from farmers market to solar startups. Reduce your personal debt and redirect savings towards energy sufficient appliances. Reusable items or even community cleanups can be done. Where your money goes, your value grows. And also remember that climate finance is not just global, it's personal. Every naira, every dollar, every CD you spend can either build resilience or deepen vulnerability. Let your lifestyle be your statement. And like I keep saying on this show all the time, that this is not just a show. This is not just a regular program where we all come together and we just tune in, listen, and I talk about climate change and sustainability and it goes away. No. We all have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable and ensure that we do what is right. And how do we do what is right? By being conscious of our living. By being conscious of living sustainably, of adding our own quota, contributing our own quota to sustainable living. And how you live sustainably will definitely determine how long you will live. I keep telling people that you don't have to have so much money. As simple, and I keep saying it, as simple as having a reusable water bottle, as simple as that can make all the difference. As simple as using a tote bag instead of plastic bags can make all the difference. As simple as rejecting single-use plastic can make all the difference. It starts with all of us. It starts with me, it starts with you, it starts with your friends, it starts with your pastor, your imam, your father, your mother, your relatives. It starts with all of us. And until we begin to wake up to these things, we cannot achieve any progress. And so, and as I said, the climate finance it's buzzing. We need to keep doing our bits. Of course, the government at its end would have to see how they can drive climate finance from its end. But you as an individual in your home, look at what we can do, by yourself and for yourself to live sustainably. And I do hope that we're not just thinking in our minds that this is a conversation for the rich. I keep saying it, we need to bust this myth. No. This is a conversation for all of us, and we have to keep at it. Let your lifestyle be your statement. Let your lifestyle be sustainable so you live longer and healthier and better. I hope we have gotten major insights on today's episode. This will be it for today's episode, and do not forget that we're here Mondays and Wednesdays to drive conversations around sustainability and climate change. The series on climate finance will not stop. It has started today, and for a few more episodes we'll talk about climate finance and see how we can move forward as a continent. What are the things we should look out for from as a continent in the conversations that we'll find ourselves, in November, gathered on in a place called Brazil in November, talking about climate finance and climate justice. How do we move from there? What are the conversations we should have? How should Africa actually stand its feet to the ground? How should Africa ensure and insist, on grants and not loans? How do we ensure, that we build resilience and actually, and ensure that we move from here? All of these things have to come into proper perspectives. Our government will have to step up. Our leaders in Africa will have to step up. This is a time not for us to be lax or to be relaxed in any way. We have to demand for more grants. We more than ever we want justice for Africa when it comes to climate change, and so we must be resilient, and we must uphold what we truly believe in. Like I keep saying, we're the lowest emitters. And everyone has to come on board. Both young people, women, old people, grassroots groups, leaders at the local government level, traditional rulers. Everybody has to be on board on this. I hope that we are taking something very valuable today. And while we're thinking your life on how you can drive sustainability within your own sphere, look out for your neighbor as well. Talk about it. Share these conversations you have heard today. Share the post on your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter. Talk about it as much as possible. Let's hold our governments accountable. Let's hold our leaders accountable. Let's ensure that we are all on the same page. And like I keep saying, and let's not forget, while we drive climate conversations, climate finance at the international level, at the regional level, at the continental level, right here, even in your homes, you can also be accountable and, of course, live sustainable. Until next time, keep staying informed, keep staying engaged, always tune in and ensure that you join the conversation. And above all, stay sustainable, live sustainable, breathe sustainable, and just be an all-round person who is geared towards living a sustainable life. Until next time, we would be stopping here on Wednesday. Tune in, same time, 9 a.m. Tune in and let's, of course, get into the conversations and see how we can encourage ourselves to stay sustainable. Until next time, this is Ebaide, your host of the Sustainability Pulse with Ebaide. We're here to give you the pulse, the reality check, to urge you, and of course, to ensure that no one is left behind in this conversation. Until next time, do have an excellent and great week ahead. And do not forget, this is a movement. It's not just a show. We're all in this together. Live sustainably. And until next time, see you on Wednesday morning by 9 a.m.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of Aso Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, Aso Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison.
In the heart of our fields lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions. From the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe, agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 9:30 a.m. Monday to Fridays on Aso TV, channel 392 DSTV, Star Times, channel 127, or YouTube live stream GSA Initiative. Agriculture for today and tomorrow, as we share groundbreaking ideas, empowering farmers, and celebrate greenhouse solutions. Together, let's grow the future. Lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions. From the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe, agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 9:30 a.m. Monday to Fridays on Aso TV, channel 392 DSTV, Star Times, channel 127, or YouTube live stream GSA Initiative. Agriculture for today and tomorrow, as we share groundbreaking ideas, empowering farmers, and celebrate greenhouse solutions. Together, let's grow the future.
An African proverb said, "The child who grows up with tomatoes in the garden will never go hungry." Good day, viewers. You're watching Agriculture Today and Tomorrow, brought to you by the Growth for Sustainable Agricultural Initiative. I am your host, Dr. ASONYE, and it's another exciting day where we dig deep into agribusiness and entrepreneurship, turning soil into gold and crops into capital. Today we're looking into something very red, very juicy, very profitable, and guess what it is? It's tomatoes that we do consume on a daily basis. So now, when you hear tomatoes, many of us think of stew, jollof rice, that smoky village sauce that tastes better the next day. But you have not considered that the tomatoes could be your next ticket to business growth, from backyard all the way to international shelves. So let's dive in. What's the tomato economy like? From local abundance to global demands? Yes, let's start with the big picture. Nigeria is one of the top most producers of tomatoes in Africa, yet they still import tomato paste worth billions of naira every year. Isn't that surprising? What's even more surprising is that over 45% of our tomatoes perish before they even reach the market due to poor storage, transport, and lack of processing facilities. How could that be? Now imagine this. What if we turn the waste into wealth? What if those baskets of spoiling tomatoes on the roadside could be processed, packaged, or exported? That's where the real profit lies, not just farming tomatoes, but in processing, value addition, and smart distribution. So what are the strategic ways to profit from tomatoes? Let's get it practical. Fresh market sales. Of course, The quickest route to income is selling fresh tomatoes. When you go to the market, you just see women selling tomatoes around. Yes, but here is the challenge: it season out and price crash when supply is high. So what's the next step up? You're going to get the processing into paste, the puree, or the powder. This is a game changer, I'm telling you for free. Whether you're a smallholder farmer or a cooperative setting up mini processing units to produce tomato paste, puree, or sun-dried tomato powder, open up a new market. The hotels, restaurants, and even international buyers are available. And guess what? Tomato paste is a longer shelf and higher market value than fresh produce. The next step to look into is the packaging and branding. This is where so many businesses are getting it wrong. Agri-businesses, to be precise, are getting it wrong. Imagine selling Niger Gold tomato paste or Abuja fresh tomato puree with a neat label and NAFDAC number. That's value-added agri-business now. Just look into it. Local brands are now traceable and hygienically packaged, gaining grounds, especially with Nigeria population and growing in diaspora markets. So the next thing to check is the export channels. When we talk about the export channels, do you know what I'm talking about? Many countries, especially in Europe and part of Asia, are now sourcing organically grown tomatoes and tomato-based products. Nigeria climate makes it possible to farm tomatoes all year round, especially with greenhouse or irrigation techniques. That's really a big edge actually. But if we should meet the global standard, Nigeria become a net exporters, not importers, I mean of tomatoes products. Exporters of tomato products. So let's get it started. How to get started from the idea to income. The idea now is to process your tomatoes and then get it into the global market. So how do we get these ideas into income? If you're watching this and you're wondering, how do I start? How do I go about this? Here are a few steps for you. Pay attention closely. You don't really need to start get a big hectare of land. You can start small. Begin with a pilot, maybe a plot of land, or even sourcing for tomatoes from local farm to process. You can even go to the market, you just get the tomatoes from those market women. You can start processing it from there, and you can also partner with cooperatives. So many people don't know this little secret I'm telling you now. Farmers cooperative can pool resources for small scale processing units, and you can learn the markets. Yes, so many mistakes are made in not researching appropriately. So you have to learn the market. You have to understand what the local and regional markets lack. Fresh tomatoes, they lack the fresh tomatoes, they lack the paste or the organic option. So you have to also look into working with the extension officers and agri-tech platforms. They can guide you on the best practices like the disease control and also the irrigation. And lastly, let's go digital. Yes, we're no longer in a world where you see that social medias are for small girls and for small boys. Yes, let's go digital. You can use your WhatsApp, you can use your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, and even the farm to market platforms to sell and even share updates to attract your buyers. And if you're an investor, this is ripe. The demand for tomato products will only grow and will return very strong, especially when you combine with storage and logistics. So many persons are looking into local to global scaling your tomato business. Yes, it's not difficult. So many people will be thinking, how can they scale it? How can they go international? So let me now speak to local and international investor watching me right now. Tomato processing is not just agricultural need, right? It's an industrial opportunity. So now governments are looking for import alternative. Yes, consumers are demanding healthier and local brands. SME are hungry for partnership and funding. Yes, so if you're in agri-tech, packaging, logistic, or FMCG, this is a room for you at the table. We need cold chain system, solar powered dryers, efficient transport, better packaging machines, and quality control labs. There are rooms for equipment suppliers, agricultural financiers, export advisors, supply chain experts as well. And we are also calling on local governments, state actors, NGOs, private partners, and diaspora investors. Oya, come, let's collaborate to industrialize the tomato value chain. Let's remember, the tomato is more than a fruit. It's a symbol of what happens when agriculture meets strategy. Yes. Because this tomato plant, like, you're looking at it like it's a small business, but it can take you global. So whether you're a farmer, a young youth entrepreneur, a cooperative leader, or a tech investor, this opportunity to turn tomatoes to profit is widely open for you. No restriction, no hindrance, no barriers. So to our sponsors and partners, join us at GSAI as we empower farmers. Yes, at GSAI we empower farmers, we support processors, and we unlock export ready to value chain. So you can reach us through our contact on the screen, or you can also visit our social page for partnership opportunities. Funding windows are widely open for you, and upcoming trainees are ringing, they are knocking on the doors. So let's make Nigerian tomatoes not just the best in the pot, but best in the world. Yes, best in the world, I say in the quotes. That's that for today on Agriculture Today and Tomorrow. I am your host, Dorcas Onare, and we'll see you next week, where we go deeper into profitable agribusiness techniques and opportunities. Until then, let's keep planting possibilities and harvesting profits. See you next time. Bye.
In the heart of our fields lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions. From the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe, agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 9:30 a.m. Monday to Fridays on ASO TV, channel 392 DSTV, Star Times, channel 127, or YouTube live stream GSA Initiative. Agriculture for today and tomorrow, as we share groundbreaking ideas, empowering farmers, and celebrate greenhouse solutions. Together, let's grow the future. In the heart of our fields lies the future of agriculture, sustainable, innovative, and powered by smart solutions. From the rich soil of Africa to high-tech farms around the globe, agriculture is evolving to meet the demands of tomorrow. At the intersection of tradition and technology, we discover smarter ways to grow more, waste less, and harvest greener. Together, we are cultivating a future where every harvest sustains the earth and its people. Join us 9:30 a.m. Monday to Fridays on ASO TV, channel.
Welcome back from that. It's been a wonderful episode. I hope you had a wonderful time with all that we've got for you today. But this is where we end today's edition of Aso Morning. Rest assured, we'll be back tomorrow with so much more. So do have a productive rest of the day and have a wonderful time.